Are we out there? Can anyone just say yes, you're out there? Can you hear me? Everyone, your phones are muted. Can someone take their phone off mute and let me know that you hear me? You have everyone muted? Oops. You're unmuted. Hello, everyone. All right. Let's get this work session started. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll?
Mr. Bozen?
Here.
Mr. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here. The speaker's turned on.
Mrs. Klein? Mrs. Klein, we can see your face. She's here. Mrs. Klein, can you hear us? Mr. Foyce?
Here.
Mr. Greider?
Here.
And Mrs. Jewin?
You know you're live. Here.
All right, Mrs. Klein, can you hear us? Mrs. Klein, if you want to see if your iPad is on mute, can you check and see if your iPad is on mute? Oh, she said she can't hear anyone.
Okay.
I see a green button with the phone icon. Should she click on that green button? Oh, I'm sorry. That was Noel tuning in. That was this video picture. I'm sorry. Scared me, Noel. Mrs. Klein, can you hear us yet? I did. Nothing happened.
Do you want me to call her?
Can she call in too at the same
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, using the meeting information.
All right, it is.
Hi, Sharon, or Margaret, we can't see you or hear you.
Yeah, I've been communicating with her. I was going to ask her. I want her to call in.
We can't hear you. We're trying to do roll call and we can't hear you.
No.
Okay,
You can call in. Can she call in?
Yeah, using.
Yes, call in, please.
Yeah, just call in.
What's the number?
Sharon,
Yeah, Kelly?
that Zoom meeting information also has call-in instructions.
Yeah.
I can,
Okay, call in, Margaret. All right, I'll try. Okay, bye-bye. She's gonna call in.
okay.
Okay. Motion to approve the agenda for the work session?
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We have an agenda. Did she call in yet?
She's dialing.
All right. We have up a discussion of changes to the Finance Committee responsibilities, including eliminating pre-approval of expenditures, pre-auths, trial requests, refunds, and bills payment. Michelle, are you on?
I am.
All
Can you hear
right.
me?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this. I put it on to have a discussion. We know that department heads would appreciate not doing the paperwork. And I think that council, there are at least some members of council that would like that too. So just thought we would have a discussion about that today.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, may I ask Michelle a couple questions?
Sure, Michelle.
Michelle, as I look then at the agenda, we wouldn't have much left for an agenda. What would the purpose of finance be? As I look at it, it looks like the only thing we'd have left would be budget line items to be amended, and perhaps some for the committee items. So what would the purpose of finance be if we eliminated all of that?
Well, that's a very good question. That's what we need to determine, is what we do think we want the finance committee to do.
And I understand anything that's already budgeted, I personally don't have a problem with eliminating it, but like bill payment, to remove that seems a little I guess
Mr. Mayor?
I'm not sure why we're doing it.
Yeah, so I have a question when you say about anything budgeted. That's what I kind of use those pre-authorizations for, is to make sure that we have the budget and we've done the bidding process kind of before we do that. So that's one thing. I didn't create any of this. These were in existence before I started, but I have come to realize some of these things allow me to be a lot more proactive in making sure we have the funding in the right bucket to do larger things that departments want to do.
But isn't that then more of an internal issue? Do you need council approval in order to do that?
Possibly not.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Is Sharon finished?
Well, I'm still questioning why we're doing it, so I don't know. Yield to Mr. Morrissey, because I'm not sure I know exactly even what to ask to get to my answer.
Well, thank you, Sharon, for yielding, and I have sort of a long diatribe here, so to speak. Not only do I question why this is even being brought up, but what prompted it, and where and who did it actually originate from. Since 2016, our Code of Ordinances for decades has standing committees, which includes the Finance Committee, boards and commissions, Building and Grounds, Human Resources, the Ordinance Committee, Public Safety, and all of these have basically not been filled except for the Finance Committee for the last 4 years. And having been on council for 6 years, first 2 I was on, we had all these. And the Finance Committee is a committee of 3. It's like a subcommittee of the council at large. And the Finance Committee reviews public money and their expenditure. And I am very happy to have served and still serve on the Finance Committee, because I believe it serves the purpose of letting the public know how our funds are being expended in a more open way. Travel requests. People can see what departments are sending who to improve their condition at work.
You are muted.
To improve their knowledge.
You are unmuted.
On their work. For some reason, I don't understand why anybody would want to diminish that role that the Finance Committee plays in city government. And just like the state legislature and federal Congress, on a municipal scale, the committees, what they do is they take a first look at these various issues before sending them on to council with a recommendation. I suggest, quite frankly, that we return and have those other committees included, and have people assigned to them. Not just the finance committee, but the committee on public safety, committee on public works, committee on public grounds and buildings, committee on boards and commissions, committee on ordinances. And I also would hope that we could also start a new committee, and that would be an oversight committee on government operations and economic issues. What sparked this discussion, again, I go back to, I don't know what did, but in so sparking it, it brings up to me the loss that there's been in these other subcommittees, these other committees having a say-so, and we as a council get handed information that should have went through one of these other committees before even coming to council with a recommendation from council. I am totally against messing with the finance committee in any way, shape, or form. I would not in any way favor moving anything like this forward. As a matter of fact, I'll be writing resolutions or ordinance language to make it so that those other committees are reinstituted, because they are part of our code of ordinances right now that are not being followed by you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and then I have some comments after you, Mr. Amos. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Is the mayor still online?
Yep, I'm listening to you.
Okay, I didn't know if Councilman Morrissey was done or not, but I just had a few comments as far as changing the finance committee. For me, I've been on the council going on 5 years, and the information that we receive as council members, let alone the public, I think that it lends to the transparency of the city, the finances, and all of those things for us as a council and for members of the public to get that information. And I think it would be a huge mistake to eliminate that finance committee and the reports and things that are given to all of us.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I appreciate Mr. Morrissey's comment, but specifically addresses finance. I don't quite understand why we would, I guess by default, that means I'm in favor of keeping them. The only thing that I would like to recommend, and this is something Mr. Jacobs brought up several years ago that I supported, was I don't know if we need to go look at authorizing every bill the amount of $1,000. I would like to see that limit increase to maybe 10 or 25. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh. I'd like to see that increase significantly. Other than that, I'm not convinced or been told why there's a need to remove the other items.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Bozen.
Thank you, sir. I agree with Councilman Jewins on the pre-authorizations. I'd been in discussions before I came on the council about bumping pre-auths up to at $2,500 or maybe even $5,000. And another thing is on travel requests, because Right now, anything over $100, we have to submit a travel request on, even if you were driving down to Cedar Rapids to pick something up. We approved the budget. We approved the travel and training in the initial budget. And I don't have a problem because I've approved it once. I don't know why I need to approve it a second and a third time, because number one, I approve it when in the budget process, I approve it before they can go to training, and then I end up approving it again on paying the bills to pay for that again. So I'm hitting that thing 3 different times when I've already approved it one time. But I'm totally in favor of pre-authorizations going up to 2,500, and I'd actually like to see it up to 5,000.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I agree with what Mr. Boson and what Mrs. Jewin said. I do have a cautionary moment here, though, on bills payment, because just a few weeks ago, we found the item for the grocery store buried in bills payment. And it would never have caught my eye if I hadn't been just browsing through bills payment.
Mm-hmm.
So, transparency is really important, and we wouldn't want people to think we were hiding stuff.
All right. Michelle, do you have any comments?
No, this, truly, we can do whatever council wishes. There are, departments will need to be a little more careful, particularly if they have federal grants. We did adopt new federal grant rules that really cover probably more than just FEMA, but we especially did it for FEMA. So there are procedures they will have to follow that might be in addition to what we're doing at finance for purchases over $3,000. But other than that, yeah, whatever council wants.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, and then we have to close for Finance Committee.
Question now, as far as bill payments, that is put on the full council agenda. Would that remain the full council agenda even if it was removed from finance?
Michelle?
Mr. Mayor?
I think whatever you prefer, we can do. It has to come to council sometime. We could continue to do it weekly, or we could wait and do it after. I always thought it seemed kind of pointless to do it after the checks are mailed, because obviously I can't go get it back then if there's an issue.
So what I would probably suggest on this one, we already have a finance committee, and that finance committee has 3 council members on it. And if there are some recommendations by the city council and by staff to say, hey, pre-auths over 5,000 and travel requests over 100, I suggest maybe next week or the week after, all of you, the committee can meet and have that conversation. Because if there's something that a department head may see that needs a little bit more efficiency, that would probably be best to be explained to the council members so they can understand that part of what this is actually about. And lastly, before we close this, because we have to have finance, the reason that some of the committees that Mr. Morrissey mentioned are no longer doing it, because I would prefer that all 7 council members would be able to have discussion on those particular items. For instance, if we take University Avenue, having council have discussion. If someone wants to bring something, one of our staff wants to bring something, all council members, 7 council members, should have some type of conversation, so we don't get to the point where we have a small group talking about something and then later on gets to the council and doesn't succeed. So I always thought that council members like to have discussions about a particular areas, but the finance has always been one of those pieces that the intricacies of that, I thought that the council wanted to continue to have, but we can have that discussion, but we need to close and get out of here for the finance meeting.
But, Mr. Mayor, let me just be clear. Are you asking then for this discussion to be taken up by the finance committee next week? Is that your recommendation?
You know, I mean, you want to talk, I didn't bring this, So you may want to talk to Michelle as a finance committee and kind of see where she's seeing some redundancies, or maybe during the finance committee, you can have that. And if we don't say what, next week, possibly, Michelle, is that quick enough?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yep.
So yeah, Ms.
Okay,
Juwan, we will get that
let's put it on
scheduled.
the agenda for finance for next week then, if we may, and if everyone that's not on finance could let one of the finance committee members know their thoughts, that would be good.
All right, thank you. So you made a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Huh?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add that, with this getting added to the agenda on Friday morning, I mean, it was not on the agenda Wednesday, it was not on the agenda Thursday evening. Then all of a sudden it shows up on the agenda on Friday morning, when we're supposed to have agenda items submitted by 10 a.m. on Wednesday, seems running counter to how we're supposed to operate. And when we, as a council, meet, we are sworn to uphold the laws of the state of Iowa and the United States of America, but also our code of ordinances. And our code of ordinances does spell out standing committees that are to be there that have not been filled for 4 years. And I'm asking you to fill those, and that what needs to happen and what there have been discussion about is what exactly those standing committees are going to do. And I would ask that we add another committee on governmental oversight.
Well, right now, Mr. Morrissey, right now, we need to adjourn and go to the finance committee meeting so we can start at 5:30. Secondly, if it is the council's desire to have committee meetings where all council members don't participate, I am open to those suggestions. Third, this is not the time to discuss that, so I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Finance Committee, you're up.
Okay, welcome to the Waterloo City Council Finance Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Mrs. Klein?
Here.
Mrs. Jewin?
Here. Need a motion for agenda and minutes, please.
Motion to approve the agenda and the minutes of April 23rd, 2020, as proposed.
I second that.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Would someone take the pre-authorizations, please?
Madam Chair, the first authorization is the airport. The amount is estimated shipping and handling $8,000. The expenditure is the staff requesting permission to lease mowing equipment for the 2020 mowing season at the Waterloo Regional Airport. Number 2 is building maintenance amount and estimated $6,420. The expenditure is an elevator upgrade at the Public Library. Number 3 is building maintenance amount and estimated shipping and handling $4,960. Expenditure, the elevator upgrades at City Hall. Number 4 is building maintenance amount and estimated shipping and handling $8,340. Expenditure, elevator upgrades at East Park Avenue ramp, Conway vicinity parking ramp. Number 5 is a convention center amount and estimated shipping and handling $2,498.79. It's for LED TVs and accessories for digital signage. Number 6 is convention center amount and estimated shipping and handling $9,308.80. It's for extension cords for use of exhibit shows and other purposes. Number 7 is the convention center amount and estimated shipping and handling $45,820.46 plus $1,102.31 shipping and handling. It's for China Flatware and associated equipment. Number 8 is also conventions for the amount and estimated shipping and handling is $128 plus $11.47 shipping and handling. It's for media players for interior digital signs and menu boards. Number 9 is fire rescue amount and estimated shipping and handling $2,054.50. It's for graphics, decals, and installation for 2 new ambulances. Number 10 is MIS. Amount and estimated shipping and handling, $4,964.70. It's for H5 laptops for remote access. Number 11 is planning. Amount and estimated shipping and handling, $5,539.50. It's for professional legal services for February 2020 rendered for the Chamberlain manufacturing site. 12 is planning. Amount and estimated shipping and handling, $2,000. Expenditure digging of 4 active water service stubs in parking at 300 block of East 2nd Street, South of Hope. 13, police. Amount and estimated shipping and handling, $3,325 plus $19 shipping and handling. The expenditure purchase of 7 body-worn cameras for the Tri-County Drug Task Force. Number 14 is sanitation. The amount and estimated shipping and handling is $6,376.39. It's for 13,000 yard waste 2020 calendars. It includes printing and bulk postage. Number 15 is sanitation. The amount and estimated shipping and handling is $11,359.98, and it's for a Mac hard drive advanced schedule with OHW cable package. 16 is for the amount and estimated shipping and handling is $1,200, and it's for golf cart rental for April 2020 through December 2020, $400 per quarter. 17 is traffic. The amount and estimated shipping and handling is $19,950. It's the 72 hollow frame ATB2 LED lamp. Number 18, and the last one is traffic, and the amount and estimated shipping and handling not to what? Exceed, sorry, I'm dizzy with this, $4,000. The expenditure is for 8 packs of 12-foot by 9-inch combination thermoplastic right arrows and 8 packs of 8 feet right thermoplastic arrows. And that's it.
Second.
Good job. Discussion?
Yes.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Would someone take budget line items and the other committee business, please?
Yeah, Madam Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, first I want to ask, am I cutting out when I talk or not?
No, we can hear you.
Everybody's cutting out. Everybody's
I
cutting
couldn't hear
out.
too many people were talking.
Before you continue, Mr. Morrissey, where's the mute button on this? I'm not seeing a mute button because there's people making a lot of racket in the background. Oh, I
Well,
just.
I don't know. I don't have anybody.
Mrs. Jewin, Chris is here and he's muting everybody, so it would just be on the phones that are on.
So, Kelly, my question is, am I coming through or am I cutting out?
We can hear you, Pat, just fine. You're not cutting out.
So every so often is not cutting out the words.
Correct. We can hear you crystal clear.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so budget lines to be amended. Number 19 is to approve the project budget amendment for the anti-heroin task force grant. Number 18, cops heroin 09 in the amount of $889 with federal revenue passed through the state of Iowa to be used for overtime as submitted by the police department. Next is to approve the project budget for the fiscal year 2021 LaPorte Road, Hess Road improvements, phase 1, design budget funded in the state grant in the amount of $356,000 and matched with local option tax in the amount of $181,300 as submitted by the engineering department. Next is to approve the project budget for the fiscal year ending 2020 CIP pipelining phase 4A project funded with sewer operating funds in the amount of $716,739 estimated by the Waste Management Sewer Department. And next is to approve the project budget amendment for the Waterloo Police Department forfeitures project to spend $10,000 additional revenue received as submitted by the police department.
Do the other
All right.
committee. Take the other committee business.
Other committee
Well, don't we have
business?
to take that one too?
Yes, please.
We don't vote on the first four budget line items?
Mrs. Jewin had asked that all of those be read outside of bills payment.
Okay, so 23 is, under other committee business, is to approve a refund request in the amount of $109.55 for garbage collection fees billed in error on a property located at 1625 East 4th Street. And finally, to approve a refund request in the amount of $52.20 for garbage collection fees billed in error on a property located at 1011 Hartman Avenue.
We need a second.
Second, I'm sorry.
Discussion. Discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Finally, on bills payment, as in accounts receivable dated April 6, 2020, in the amount of $3,586,637.91, received, place on file, and forward to the full council.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, let's get the council meeting started. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll?
Just a second. Mr. Bozen?
Here.
Mr. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Mrs. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Foyce?
Here.
Mr. Greider?
Here.
Mrs. Jewin?
Here.
All right, if you would please join me in a moment of silence. All right, thank you. The pledge this evening will be led by Mr. Pat Morrissey, Ward 3 council member.
Yes, would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Take a motion on the agenda.
Okay, move approval of the agenda with one correction on the consent agenda. I move to delete item 1A4, which is resolution approving the request by the city of Waterloo to name and dedicate 1 mile portion of newly constructed roadway, West Shawless Road, half mile portion of newly constructed roadway, East Shawless Road, located east of Amesboro Avenue and west of Hawkeye Road, Iowa Highway 21, and rescinding resolution number 2013-205.
Second.
Yeah, so we have an agenda to approve the agenda and also to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. It is now time for oral presentations, your opportunity to comment on non-agenda related items. If you would If you are in the audience, we'll take you first. If you would please state your name and address for the record and let us know your thoughts on the agenda.
Hi, Theodore Lederman, 1758 Pinehurst Lane, Waterloo, Iowa, 50701. Mr. Mayor, I had asked for 5 minutes. Thank you. I've been a Waterloo native and a landowner, a home here for many, many years, and I've been able to pay our taxes, and I'm happy to do so to contribute to Waterloo. However, not all real estate holders are able to do what I am able to do. The reason I'm coming here is mainly two things. Councilman Jonathan Grider had asked us to check the March 16th, 2020 Waterloo City Budget Exchange, in which he verbally attacked Councilwoman Margaret Klein, who questioned the need to raise property taxes. Now, I know that it's very,
Okay, so if you want to talk about the exchange, but when you talk about verbally attack, it all is on the eyes of the beholder. So keep the verbally attack out of here, and please keep your comments germane.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the taxes, Mayor. Through the years, many businesses in this area have failed, forced to close down, or drastically reduced employment. JCPenney, Sears Roebuck, Yonkers, Rath Packing. In the 1980s, John Deere Waterloo Cedar Falls employed 16,000 people. Why bring back old memories? Because Mr. Grider is inferring that Councilwoman Klein is attempting to divide us based on place of employment. Please read his guest editorial, The Courier, April 5th. In times of economic decline, when thousands of Cedar Valley residents lose their businesses, jobs, health insurance, and pensions, how many government employees face similar loss? I'm not saying government employees are bad, but their job security, health benefits, and pensions are orders of magnitude better and safer than those who work in the private sector. All government services are paid by taxpayers, not the government. Unfortunately, many firms are living hand to mouth. Increasing taxes may well lead to further job loss and business loss. Councilman Grider recommends using the Small Business Association. I don't know if this would be helpful. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to consider those who lay the eggs instead of ways to pluck them. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Grider, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I certainly would. So again, we're seeing this just awful attack on government employees, as if government employees aren't keeping our streets or putting out fires or responding to emergency medical crisis in a time it's dangerous for them to do so. I find it astonishing that having a different political viewpoint means that you're attacking someone. I do find it disheartening that we're once again pitting groups of workers against each other simply because of who signs their paycheck. We're in a crisis, and we absolutely have to do something. And I wasn't here when Rath closed. I didn't make the decisions that Sears Roebuck did to massively leverage themselves out of existence. I wasn't here when Yonkers did the same thing. What I do know is that I economics, and I know that business cycles go up and they go down. And I know that I've been in conversations with the mayor and Noel and other people about how we can better support our small businesses in Waterloo, because I love this community. I love the people who work here. I've had too many conversations in the last couple of weeks with parents and students who are physically, but also for their economic safety. And I've done my darndest to do what's best for the city. But what is clear from the March 19th meeting and the March 16th meeting is that if we cut taxes below the 755 that we have right now, it would cost us $4 million. With fire and police making 80% of the budget, Michelle Widner said that there's no realistic plan, no realistic way, to cut the budget that much for services. So I think we need to keep that in mind when we're talking about slogans that sound nice versus actual governing.
right.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Lederman, we allowed you to have your comments.
reply
You verbally stated things and about Mr. Greider's intention. He responded, so that would be all by you, good sir. Mrs. Jewin?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like a chance to respond since my name was brought up in this.
Was that you or
That would be
Mrs. Jewin that chimed first? But yes, go ahead, Mrs. Klein.
Here's the thing. No one ever thought that we could drop the taxes below 1755, which was where they were. But there was, in my opinion, an absolute immorality to raising them during a pandemic. I just that was immoral to do to people. And I once again call on all of my council members to donate your raises back. Do something. Just don't look like we're taking off.
All right.
And I'm done.
Mrs.
Mr.
Jewin.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would just like to make one clarifying comment to our speaker. He had inferred that public employees, their job is secure forever, and there's never a danger of losing the job or downsizing. And I asked him to look a little farther back in Waterloo's history, and this is by memory, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. But at one point, Waterloo employed close to 800 employees. So that's a significant reduction in the amount of employees, and I think is in conflict with what our speaker just said about public employees always have guaranteed jobs. That is not the case.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to comment about this particular topic?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Foyce.
Thank you. I just want to, a piece that Councilwoman Klein stated about asking her council colleagues to donate their salary. I think that it's commendable. However, I do donate, and I've actually gone out and supported a lot of small businesses, downtown businesses, a lot of Waterloo businesses, rather than anything else. However, I guess I don't need to have my name in the paper showing that I've donated that amount of money. I do it on my own accord. I do, like we've the last 2 days, I know our Experience Waterloo has really promoted doing the Eat Love Waterloo. My wife and I have both gone out and supported and generously tipped because we know, that's important. So I think that many of us on council probably are supporting a lot of our small businesses. I guess what differs from, that councilwoman is I don't have my name in the paper doing it. And if that's what I need to do, so she understands that and others understand what I'm doing with my council money, then I'm happy to do that. But I'm not doing this for accolades. I'm doing it to help support our small businesses that are struggling in Waterloo, and I don't want that to go up. So I think this isn't about me, and I don't want that to continue to happen. So.
All right. Mr. Morrissey.
I would like to answer that.
Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, when I have one of my fellow council members demeaning my integrity of doing my job by referring to any action that I take in trying to set a budget as being immoral when the budgetary process started way back in late January and early February, before our federal government even would call this a pandemic, is unconscionable. And then to have somebody grandstand talking about donating money, I work for the stipend that I get, Mr. Mayor. And I'm proud to accept the money from the taxpayers as a little recompense for the work that I do. So those kind of demeaning comments from somebody who appears to be running for mayor or some other position is beneath dignity.
So let's try to refrain about that type of comment. But Mrs. Klein.
I have to answer both of you. Number one, we all, and I hope we all, had a history of personal charity, which never in the news and should never be in the news. It's private. However, if you take a position in public, like on the city council, I think it's important to people know sometimes how much they're thinking of the community as a whole. And so my donations, which I make public in that regard and open regard, are public. So AC, I support a wide range of public service areas. I don't mark down 90% of what I give, but when I don't my public money, I like the public to be able to go in. Also, as far as Mr. Morrissey's remark about my saying it was immoral, I cannot many times. Mr. Morrissey has accused me of immorality over a vote that I took in my first year. So, pot, we have to be very careful.
I think this, conversation is great. Disagreement, it happens. But what I would like to remind people, and I have to remind myself because I'm absolutely not perfect at all, is that it's not just who we want to watch that's watching council meetings. There's potential people that are thinking about moving to Waterloo. There are potential businesses that we are still in negotiation with about coming to Waterloo. And so, everyone is free to have their own thoughts, but there's a price to pay for every comment that they make. So I'm just, anyway, we have, who else is on the phone? LaTanya, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Are your comments in regards to the bidding portion at the end of the agenda? Or did you have oral comments just in general?
Just in general.
All right, so you're up next. Top that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that when we have people that are minority contractors, that the process is fair, in that when they place bids, their bids should be considered. I'm not sure of the exact process, but I've just received a number of complaints in regards to how it is done. So what I'm going to do is research that and get back with those individuals and let them know what I've found out.
Okay. And Ms. Graves, I would probably also have you talk to Mr. Rudy Jones, who deals with compliance portions in a number of different areas with regards to city contracts or federal contracts as well, because he may be able to share some light on what we're doing internally as well. All right.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else on the telephone or Zoom that has oral comments not pertaining to anything on the agenda? All right. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just going to make a motion, but are there other council members that wanted to speak first?
Yes, I have something to say about the library.
Yes, ma'am.
you may not be aware, but our library was mentioned in a national publication called, it's in the latest issue of American Libraries, that periodical, and it talks about Jillian Rutledge, our own Jillian Rutledge at the Waterloo Library, who is using the 3D printer to print face sheets. It's a wonderful thing, and now that they are mostly working from home, she has taken the 3D printer home with her, and she is continuing to print out safety face shields. I think it's wonderful.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? I just want to make some really quick comments. Today, the governor had a press conference with regards to the COVID-19 or to the coronavirus, and we are adhering to several different items and upkeep and things that we need to do here locally. And so we're receiving information when you receive it, and been working with our city attorney and with our PD about what to enforce, how to enforce some of the parameters that's placed on us. So just wanted to give you a quick update on that. All right, Mrs. Jewin.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr.
Mr. Morrissey.
Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to, and I mistakenly forgot about it a few minutes ago when I was talking, but the best news that I've heard in a long time came to us that the city of Waterloo won the lawsuit that was filed against it by the business people. We won that lawsuit, and our Fair Chance Initiative was seen and determined to be lawful by the judge in a summary judgment. That's great news. Thank you, Marty Peterson. Thank you, Tim Bowler. Thank you, Abraham Funches. Great job, and we're moving forward on this now.
All right, thank you. Due to the conversation that happened earlier on this call, I completely forgot about that, but thank you for that reminder. And it was big for the citizens here. So thank you for the reminder, Mr. Morrissey. All right, Mrs. Jewin.
Well, and kudos to Mr. Morrissey for saying it first. That was the exact same thing I wanted to say. Let me just add to that for the benefit of the citizens that a committee has been working on this for over 2 months. We have a training presentation that we're planning on making. It has been complicated by the virus and the stay-at-home guidelines, but we will be eventually having it on the city website, and hopefully we will have an in-person presentation as well that will let the business people in our wonderful community know how to navigate these new guidelines. So thank you to everyone.
All right. I'll accept a motion to close oral presentations if someone would like to give it.
Motion to close oral presentations, receive comments, and place on file.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition to 1A1, the bill payment in the amount of $3,586,637.91. Receive, approve, and place on file. With
Second.
yes.
All right, that motion has been that motion has been made. Council, any thoughts or?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have item number 2, item number 5, item number 6, and item number 7 taken off, please.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Morrissey, did you
Mr.
say
Mayor.
2, 5, 6, and 7? Correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Kelly, in so doing that, I just would like to say that this process could get streamlined if we would in some way be able to change so that if we had just individual comments or questions to make after a second on these, just to have clarification made, it would streamline it better than having to take it off and vote on each one separately. That's just a comment I'm making with that, Kelly and Mr. Mayor.
Okay, yeah, well, we can definitely take a look at changing Robert Rules of Orders for consent agendas. But right now, let's just deal with the ones that 2, 5, 6, and 7. Could we vote on the other ones, please, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
And
Mayor.
just really quickly, we do have a board appointment here, Mrs. Teresa Culpepper, reappointment to the Human Rights Commission. So we thank you much for your dedication, your service, and continuing on with the Human Rights Commission. So thank you so much for your service. And we won't keep you if you wanna roll. All right, Mr. Morrissey.
Give me just 1 second.
All right, hold on, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on one
I'd like to
second.
make a motion. Pardon?
Just 1 minute, Mr. Morrissey. I got to update my minutes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution setting the date of public hearing as April 20th, 2020 to review the proposed funding recommendations set forth by the Community Development Board for the fiscal year 2021 one-year action plan for the CDBG and home program funds for the Waterloo Cedar Falls Consortium and instruct city clerk to publish said notice.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Mr. Morrissey.
And the other reason why I took this off, Mr. Mayor, was should we not have a work session on this? Or are we considering the April 20th date as a combination work session and discussion meeting to take care of? Because my recollection is we previously have had work sessions to go over this.
Mr. Jones, are you on the phone call? Rudy, are you on the call? He's not on there. Noel, are you on here?
Yes, I am here.
Could you talk a little bit about this process since Rudy's not here?
Yes, this is a process, of course, that goes through the Community Development Board, and they had a hearing there. I don't believe there was too much in terms of other projects that were submitted and not funded in the process. But if the council would like to have a work session or some additional information on it, we'd be glad to answer that, or we could set a work session for April 13th or before the full meeting on April 20th if you'd like. Otherwise, the April 20th hearing is a time for discussion as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Which?
Mr. Morrissey.
Oh, I thought somebody else.
Councilman Amos had a couple of things to say. Is that okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, myself and Councilman Greider sat in on the CDBG when they looked at the funds as far as distributing those out So the council did have some input, and if I remember correctly, they will be bringing that information to the entire council on the 20th of April.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I guess, so was this a agenda item that was going to be lengthy in discussion on the 20th? Or is there going to be a PowerPoint or what on the 20th? I just seem to recall that we had lengthy discussions about this in prior years.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Morrissey, I've been on this particular liaison for several years, and if I remember correctly, we did have it one year to where they actually received some funds at a later date, and we had talked about putting those in a certain area. But other than that, I don't recall any lengthy meetings as far as the CDBG funds.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can, this is Kelly. I can double check, but I don't believe we've done a work session on these home program funds in the past. And then this action is just setting the date of public hearing for a public hearing that would come on the 20th to further discuss the funds.
Okay, that's all I have then. Thank you.
All right, so there's been a motion and a second to adopt the hearing. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 5, Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving preliminary plans, specifications, form of contract, and setting on setting date of public hearing as April 20th, 2020, in conjunction with the Ainsborough Avenue Improvements Project on Black Hawk Road, Downing Avenue, and instruct city clerk to publish said notice.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Mr. Morrissey?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to let you know in advance that this also ties into number 7. And the only reason why I bring this up is, are we, by passing this resolution in the consent agenda, approving preliminary plans, form of contract, etc., or is that approval to be part of the April 20th public hearing?
This is Kelly. I can speak to that a little bit. When we're setting the date of public hearing, especially for improvement projects for construction, part of what the law requires us to do is to give preliminary approval of plans and specifications. That then allows the department to send out their bid specifications. It alerts contractors that the specifications are out, that they've received initial approval by the city council. And then once we have the public hearing, then the council confirms that final approval of the plans and specifications for the project. And then you have to do your authorization to proceed, so that there's just a couple extra layers and steps that go in to give council the authority to say that everything is okay and that they're wishing to proceed with the project.
And so, beyond that, what my comment would be is, in the past, have we not had a resolution like this out in the main body of the agenda rather than in the consent agenda?
No, this is the way that we have been doing consent agenda action items for setting the date of hearing for projects for numerous years, as long as I've worked here.
With approving the preliminary plans.
Correct.
That as part of it.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Then that takes care of this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Mr. Morrissey.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving submission of a grant application to Metropolitan Planning Organization for fiscal year 21 through 24 service transportation block grant in conjunction with the Public Works Building to Donald Street Traffic Fiber Optic and Monitoring Camera Project in the amount of $400,000.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. Mr. Morrissey.
The only thing I would like is to have just discussed what this is all about, what it will do in that. That's all that I want to have the public hear about this.
All right. Randy or Chris, either one of you want to talk about the fiber for the camera project we have?
Yeah, this is Randy Bennett, Public Works Division. So this project is more or less part of the city's traffic and fiber interconnect and traffic master plan. This would be used to control fiber and devices in the fire station and the public works complex once we get our new traffic.
Randy, can you do that one more time, but speak in the mic?
Yeah, what this actually project is for traffic, fiber optics and monitoring cameras. This goes part to our master plan, and this would actually connect our station number 3 with the public works building future traffic operations center.
So Randy, we are working on our overall camera project. I think we had work sessions about it in the past of having one of the most technological savvy camera systems in the state to be able to monitor traffic flows if there's an accident, to be able to do that. And this is the fiber that's laid underground heading directly to our Public Works building, which is a part of this overall project. And the Metropolitan Planning Organization has some surface transportation grant money. So we're utilizing some of this money to be able to pay for this portion of the project.
Correct.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yeah.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
All right. Number 7.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving preliminary plans, specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and setting date of bid opening as April 23rd, 2020, and date of public hearing as April 27th, 2020 for the fiscal year 2020 asphalt overlay program, contract number 992, and instruct city clerk to publish said notice.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Mr. Morrissey?
Mr. Mayor, I have, it was answered with the answer to number 5, so I have no further questions or discussion.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yeah.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Could someone take number 2, please?
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor,
Mr. Amos?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication and notice of public hearing, and that is for 2020 right-of-way mowing contract.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item on the agenda? Going a second time. And Madam Clerk, there were no comments on file, correct? For the right-of-way mowing.
That is correct.
All right. Mr. Amos?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
second.
That motion's been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file and instruct the city clerk to read bids.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mrs. Felkley?
Our first bidder is B&B Lawn Care of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount for option A was $57.75, option B, $58.75, option C, $49.99. Our second bidder was Professional Lawn Care of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount for option A was $58.75, B, $54.50, C, $61.75. Our third bidder was Wilson Custom Tree of Cresco, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount for option A was no bid, option B, no bid, option C, $54.58. Our final bidder was Speedy Lawn Care of Wellsburg, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount for option A was $40, option B, $50, option C, $55.
All right, thank you. Mr. Amos?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving award of bid to B&B Lawn Care, Inc. of Waterloo, Iowa in the amount of $57.75 per acre, option A, and $49.99 per acre, option C, and Professional Lawn Care LLC of Waterloo, Iowa in the amount of $54.50 per acre, option B, in conjunction with the 2020 right-of-way mowing project, approving the contract bonds and certificate of insurance, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said documents.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
And Mr. Greider?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Could someone take number 3?
Mayor?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Foyce? Or who was that?
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that's for fiscal year 2020 sanitary sewer gate well repairs contract number 951.
Thank you.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, is there anyone on the phone in the audience somewhere in the world that would like to make comments regarding this particular item on the agenda? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion for a resolution confirming approval of plan specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council, questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bozen?
I just had a question because I was concerned that how much the total estimate was over our engineer's estimate by, it looks like by over $2 million.
All right. Mr. Knudsen, you want to comment? Jamie, are you out there? Wayne, are you there? Noel?
I am here. I think Jamie is shown as being on. I thought he was on. I have to look into the answer on that.
Is he showing to be on here?
Shows that he's on, well, it shows he's on the video, but not audio.
But Jamie, if you're in the building, could you go to Noel's office and just stay 6 miles away from him? Let me see. Is he in there?
There he is.
There he is.
David Jason, city engineer. We are looking at the bids now, and trying to get some understanding of why they came in so much over our estimate. I don't have a good answer for you yet, because we're still looking into it, but it was surprising that they came in that much above our estimate.
So, Mr. Bose, so right now, I think we're just trying to, you'll assess that once you're able to go and look inside the bids, and you'll bring a recommendation back to council. But right now, we're just trying to read the bids right now. Mr. Bozen, any other questions?
Yes. No, that was my only question. So we're not going to really be voting on this tonight anyway. Is that correct?
Yep, just to instruct the city clerk to read bids and give them to Jamie for review.
And then they'll get back to us on why there's such a discrepancy in the numbers.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's feeling the same way too right now. So he'll be able to communicate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, council? Madam Clerk, for the adoption of the resolution.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct city clerk to read bids and refer to city engineer for review.
Second.
That motion's been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk.
The estimate for the base bid was $4,304,290. The estimate for alternates 1 through 4 was $333,600. The estimate for the base bid plus the alternates is $4,637,890. We received one bid. It was from WRH Incorporated of Amana, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their base bid was $6,292,360 for alternate 1, $132,000, alternate 2, $132,000, alternate 3, $107,000, and alternate 4, $17,000.
All right. Thank you. Number 4, please. Mr. Amos, thanks for taking number 4.
Not a problem. Number 4 is a motion to receive and file proof of publication and notice of public hearing. That is for fiscal year 2020 sidewalk and trail repair program zone 10, contract number 1009.
Second.
All right. That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item on the agenda? On the phone? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
A motion has been made to close the hearing, and there were no comments on file, were they, Mrs. Clerk?
No comments on file.
A motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution confirming approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and instruct city clerk to read bids and refer to city engineer for review.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk?
The Division One total base bid estimate was $61,107.63. The Division Two total base bid estimate was $208,796.92. The Division Three total base bid estimate was $124,624.45. And the total contract cost estimate was $394,529. Our first bidder was B&B Builders and Supply of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Division One bid was $56,959.85. Division Two, the bid was $214,513.53. Division Three, $131,849.20 for a total bid of $403,322.58. Our second bidder was Brock Even Construction, LLC. They provided 5% security. Their bid for Division One was $68,628.46. Division Two, $204,231.57. Division Three, $100,306.18 for a total bid of $373,166.21.
All right, thank you. Could someone take number 5, please? Mr. Morris?
Mayor?
Yo, Mr. Foyce.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of hearing in the fiscal year 2020 Portland, Jefferson, and Mulberry Streets Reconstruction Program Contract Number 1015.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the Jefferson and Mulberry Street Reconstruction Program? Going a second time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to close the hearing.
Second.
All right. We do, the contractor, Nick Brewer, is on the phone call. So once we get to council questions, if you have any questions for the contractor, he is here. So that motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion for a resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
And Mr. Amos?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Mr.
I'd like
Foyce?
to make a motion to receive and file and instruct the city clerk to read bids.
Second.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk?
Our bid estimate was $2,523,773.65. Our first bidder was Veith Construction Corporation of Cedar Falls, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $2,463,877.25. Our second bidder was Lodge Construction Incorporated of Clarksville, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $2,399,218.02. And our final bidder was K. Cunningham Construction Company Incorporated of Cedar Falls, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount was $2,413,670.50.
All right, thank you. Mr. Foyce.
Mayor, I'd like to, resolution approving award of bid to Lodge Construction, Inc. of Clarksville, Iowa, in the amount of $2,399,218.02 in conjunction with the fiscal year 2020 Cortland, Jefferson, and Mulberry Streets Construction Project, Division 1, 2, and 3, contract number 1015, approving the contract bonds and certificate of insurance and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yeah.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
and Mr. Morrissey.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 6, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication notice of public hearing on the sale and conveyance of city-owned property located east of 1994 Newell Street to FI Waterloo LLC and Material Control Systems Incorporated, Control, and approving a development minimum assessment agreement.
Second.
All right, that motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this particular item on the phone or in public? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution authorizing the sale and conveyance of city-owned property located east of 1994 Newell Street in the amount of $1 and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said documents.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey?
well, I have several things I just wanted to get clarified with this. So the assessed value of that property is currently $102,000 some dollars. Isn't that's correct, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right, Noel?
No.
That is correct.
And so that assessed value by this agreement goes to $11.5 million.
That is correct.
And so the taxable value increases 112%.
That sounds correct.
I didn't hear.
Those numbers were correct, going from the 102,000 to 11 million.
Okay, but the city's going to continue getting taxes on that 102,000, and plus the city will get, or TIF or whatever, will get 50% of the 112% increase. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, once the value is put on there at the 11.5, which is probably when they finish construction, then that increased taxable value will go into the Waterloo's Northeast Industrial Park TIF district so that we can pay off any debts that we have in that TIF district. If we do not have any debt in that TIF district, we can release that debt if we would like to, or we can use it for.
Okay, and so, hello?
Yes,
Okay,
Mr. Morrissey.
So we get, in essence, or the TIF area will get a 56% more in revenues from 1 through 8 that will go into TIF or whatever, as you just explained. And so what are the taxes 100%
for that 102,000 for that property right now?
I would have to get that to her if Michelle can calculate it. I can't bring it up on my computer. I'm using it for the meeting.
Well, I know that there is one other item on the agenda that has taxable value of 102,000, and it speaks to that being bringing in taxes at about 4,000 a year. Would that be about right or not?
That should be pretty close, yes.
Yeah, that's fairly close.
Okay, and what will be the additional taxes on that remaining 11,398,000?
On the total, well, okay, I should change that just a second. It's gonna be about around 300,000, not counting the 10% going to debt service.
Okay.
A little north of 300,000, I think.
And the amount to the city versus the amount to control will be just divided equally, and by the city, I mean into that TIF account.
That would be that total we just talked about.
So 150,000 goes back to control.
Approximately.
Okay, and then what is the life of that northeast TIF district?
Noel, is this in the original?
It is not. It is an expanded portion of it, so we'd have to find the exact life remaining on it.
Let's see. You know which area it's in by any chance?
I do not have that in front of me, no.
Okay, but evidently you can get that information to us, about what the life of that northeast TIF is.
Yes, we can.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
And
sir.
my final thing is
Excuse
there any way that the city can divert through some kind of action that part of the city's 50% back to property tax? And I think that Noel just answered that some of that could be drawn back. Is that correct, Michelle?
It could be, but we have some expenses we've got to pay off first.
Okay, I understand. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Mr. Bozen.
Just a couple quick questions. In an email I received from Noel, he mentioned that we've released all the funds out of that TIF district back to the general fund. So my first question is the $1.515 million for their grant for the dirt work? Can you identify a funding source for that, where that's going to come from?
No.
That is included in the bond sale that would happen in May.
Okay, and then I know we have some extensive wetland restoration work for the next 3 years out in that area. It's going to be a pretty hefty price tag. Is that also bond money then also?
That is correct.
But none of this coming back to the TIF then?
No, but
Well-
once the increment from the northeast, from the new control building would start paying into the TIF district, we could repay the bonds with the TIF.
Okay, because I noticed that we've got a lot more platting and a lot more work to do out there if we're going to develop any more lots. And I figured that money was going to be coming out of the TIF, so I'm curious on the repayment cycle, if that's even possible in the near future, if we're going to continue to try to expand out there.
We'll definitely continue to try to expand out there. It's one of our unique areas in terms of it's heavy industrial. We have the ability for rail, heavy water, and heavy sewer. So there's definitely some unique properties or projects out there. That's the only site we could show to in terms of heavy water, heavy sewer, or again, rail is one of our two sites. So we definitely see continued expansion out there. And there's actually another agenda item on later for platting of some more land there for a smaller project that we're working to bring out to that area.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Madam Clerk, on the adopting of the authorizing the sale.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution approving a development and minimum assessment agreement between 4FI Waterloo LLC, the Material Control Systems Incorporated, doing business as Control Container Systems, with grant funds of $1,515,000 and tax rebates of 50% for 8 years for the construction of a new 176,980 square foot commercial building, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said documents.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Conversation. And I just want to say, Noel, Jamie, and Michelle, if this passes, I just want to say, good job. This is one of our larger expansions that we've had in a very long time, and the second largest that we've had in that particular area. And I think that kind of gets overshadowed with the flow of the meeting. But this is an incredible opportunity for the city. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
and Mr. Foyce.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Number 7, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication notice of public hearing on the request to ratify and affirm certain actions with respect to the Verdon Creek Drainage Project, including authorizing use of condemnation procedure.
Second.
All right, that motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's now time for the public hearing. We have Mr. Aaron Alcorn that would like to speak to this particular item. Mr. Alcorn?
Mr. Mayor and Waterloo Council, can you hear me?
Yep. State your address for the record.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I can't hear. 7016 Dysart Road, Waterloo, Iowa.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, just first off, want to say, this project's probably gone on for a long time, but we've been working with the city here in the last, month. It's been a slow go, obviously, with the virus situation, but we do not obviously wish to have to ever go to condemnation over this. We want to come to some resolve. I feel like there's some options out there that we've talked through with the city engineers. We probably will need some maybe working meetings here to be able to understand the budgets that are, we could have for the project, because currently it's drawn open QNet, and it will have a large impact to our property. And so we just have concerns around that. We want to make sure that this is engineered well and engineered robustly for the future, on our family farm ground. So that's our concerns. We do want to resolve it. We don't want to go to condemnation. So we just need to work together to get some resolve, so that everybody is happy with the outcome. Currently, what was offered by the city on the current route is has some impact to how we would farm, and we would probably have extra costs down the road, and so that we're concerned about that. So we want to work together. Hopefully we can get this back going again. And I appreciate Jamie's in recent last couple of weeks. We've been able to get some options talked about. Also sent an email today with a couple different ideas as well to try and mitigate some of the issues that we would have on our farm ground per the current design. So hopefully we can come to some resolve. We definitely don't want to go to condemnation, don't desire that at all. And looking for a team effort here though going forward to be able to close the issue and resolve it.
All right. Any other comments by anyone on the phone? All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral comments. I
Second.
don't believe there were any written ones, so.
All right. So that motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution ratifying and affirming certain actions with respect to the Verdon Creek Drainage Project to establish the amount of just compensation for certain property interests to be acquired for project purposes and authorizing the use of condemnation procedures for acquisition of said property interests in furtherance of the project objectives and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said documents.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Noel or Jamie, if we're going through this process, does that mean there can no longer be any more discussion with the Alcorns?
This is Noel Anderson, the Community Planning Development Director. No, I mean, actually, this is just setting a timeline for the condemnation to occur. The process for that is the Blackhawk County Courthouse will actually set up, and first up they have to go out and find a condemnation jury. These are all people with experience in the real estate profession, either appraisers or realtors or someone of that nature. So they'll have to find a jury first that's willing to serve and get that set up. We're probably talking 60 to 90 days out, I'd say minimum. And with what is going on right now, it may be further, because obviously they'd want them to be able to get together to discuss it. But this is basically the next step to set that up. In the meantime, while all that is happening, we can continue to talk to the Alcorns about, different design methods that are out there. But this basically helps to ensure a timeline is in place to at least keep it moving forward.
All right, thank you. Council, you have any questions?
Mayor,
Mr. Bozen?
thank you. I just had a question, and maybe Noel can answer this for me. I'm looking at both the 2014 and today's resolution for this on this condemnation, and there's quite a discrepancy in the cost. In 2014, their reimbursement for the Elkhorns was $9,979, and then in this one we're dropping it down in about $7,191. Could someone explain to me what happened in that meantime and why this wasn't moved forward in 2014 and we're dealing with it 6 years later?
Sure, this is Noel Anderson again. So the difference in the cost prices, we did have the property reappraised since it had been so many years. So the new appraisal came in. Farm prices had dropped a little bit. So that is the appraised price. Again, with the negotiation, we can go above that to try to avoid condemnation as well in talking with the Alcorns. We did have a condemnation time set back in 2014, 2015 time period, and we thought it was all agreed upon and they were going to sign. So we canceled the condemnation hearing, and then the signing did not occur.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have several things. This is that project that I've been harping on for 5 years, Mr. Mayor.
To say the least.
Pardon?
I said to say the least. But
yeah, as a matter of fact, thanks to my conversations with the Alcorns, I learned that this was first identified by the city for work back in 1979. And here we are 41 years later. I have no idea why nothing has been done and why we're completely doing over something again that we'd already voted on nearly 6 years ago. It's done, and it has not been done. So why? I mean, I can't accept that we tried and then it didn't happen in 2015, so we let it sit for another 5 years. The only thing that I saw in looking at these different resolutions is an actual time that says that negotiations will take place from the signing of this until a certain date, at which time on that date condemnation procedures begin. There was nothing like that on the 2014 resolution, and there's nothing like that on this resolution. The other thing about this that I have a difficulty with is that the resolution refers to the design. And if we pass this, it says that we are approving a design just like had been approved in the design in 2014. But yet, in the attachments that we received for this today, have no maps of any design for this project, that this resolution is aimed at beginning the completion process that began as early as 1979, if not even before. So my question is, what is the design that we are voting to approve by this resolution? And if there are other designs, what are they? And should not the council be apprised of any design that they are voting on tonight? Should not we have those documents attached? And then the second part of that is, I believe that we need to have an amendment to this resolution that puts a date of August 31st of this year for the negotiation process to end and condemnation proceed from that day forward if negotiations are unsuccessful.
All right. No, yeah, I don't, 2014, I wasn't mayor then. I'm mayor now. We've had conversations about this. The one part of Verdon Creek is being worked on now since I've been here. This part we are trying to move forward. So I don't know about 2014. I know that we have an opportunity now. Noel or Jamie, you want to respond to the planning and design?
This is Jamie Knudsen, city engineer. Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you very well.
Okay. Back in 2014, I believe, I'd have to go back and look at the exact date, but yes, we started a design process. We had to do some sort of a design so that we knew how much property that we needed to acquire from both the Andersons as well as the Alcorns. And prior to the Alcorns owning it, it was Mr. Bedard that owned the property that we were working with at one point. If Mr. Morrissey would like those designs, I'm more than happy to provide them to him. It's up, we can provide that along with the information that we've recently provided to the Alcorns as well on alternative designs. But those alternative designs added hundreds of thousands of dollars to the cost of the project versus what we're doing now. And for various other reasons, that particular
design is less desirable from a city standpoint than what we currently have.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
but aren't we voting on a specific design? Because if we're not voting on a specific design that is one of the determinants for the appraised value of what the city is obtaining, then how can we be considering other designs? I mean, we're voting on this. We have a dollar amount based on a design concept. It's not an open-ended amount. If it was an open-ended amount, then we would have, if there was other designs put in there, we would have different dollar amounts for the appraisal values. But we don't have that in this resolution. To me, this resolution, the only thing that it is doing, Mr. Mayor, is it is taking the resolution from 2014 and adding some appraised values to the design that was there in 2014, and that's it. There's nothing that changes with this resolution other than we're 6 years later than where we were before, and we're 6 years later behind the 34 years that we were behind. 6 years. What is it? We can't have it both ways.
So what? So
What this is.
Mr. Mayor?
let me let him finish. Are you done, Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
You were at 34 years. Who was that asked to speak?
I think it was Noel.
This is Noel.
Noel.
Mr. Mayor, I would note, I mean, this is to go to condemnation proceedings, and so this would be for the current design. On pages 12 and 13 of some of the attachments, there is an easement drawing on there showing the east-west design of where we are proposing to put the drainway, which that east-west configuration, bit of a diagonal, does allow for future residential or commercial redevelopment of the site within the city limits, which is just east of North Crossing or the former Logan Plaza area. So that is one of the reasons why we chose that. The east-west design that's shown here, the engineering firms have put together this to allow for crossing of it or more farming. We've worked and had discussions with the person farming the land in the past that this configuration diagonal would not allow for a proper crossing, losing some, and again, more difficult for future redevelopment. So this is the process, this is the project, and this is the design that we are hoping to move ahead with. Obviously, in continued discussions with the Alcorn over the next 60 to 90 days or more, if the project were to change a design or something like that, we would obviously assume we're not going to condemnation and there may be more council action needed at that time. But for today's discussion of moving it ahead, this is the project and the design is shown in the attachments.
Mr. Mayor,
Who was that?
this is Alan Alcorn. Is it possible to have a few more words?
Only if you have comments regarding to the comments that have been made. If there's anything outside of that, not. So I'll give you 1 minute for that.
Thank you, sir. So just recently, we see a few different options that are available because some things have changed since 2014 with the city owning some adjoining ground next to us. And so it would be nice to be able to at least talk about some different options there to maybe reduce the impact of flooding on our ground. And so, we're hoping to be able to accomplish that here. Because like I said, since 2014, that has been one of the changing factors. The other thing is the comment from the engineering group was that we had, price increases for maybe running through my property with underground pipes, so it wouldn't affect the farming operation. But that there is some significant dollar increases, but I don't know if that's in or out of your budget. And the comment was made that would be up to the council to decide. So it's hard to set on a single design right now when how many of you on the council have actually seen the design before you vote tonight?
So thank you, Mr. Alcorn. Noel, what happens in a condemnation proceeding?
The condemnation proceeding, so it's like a sort of like a small court with a condemnation jury. Each side can present their information for whether or not the really in the condemnation process, it's not really a matter of whether or not the project happens. It's a matter of the compensation to be paid to move ahead so the project can happen. The condemnation jury will make a decision there for the package paid, acquire the land needed for the project.
So Noel, if the condemnation group, do they say if that land is worth $180,000, will they give value to that, or is the value set?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're real estate professionals, so they're going to be looking for documentation as to show the price per acre. We'll have the appraisal in hand to show what our appraiser said it was worth. But the condemnation jury can go above that, can go below that as they see fit.
All right. Any questions,
Mr. Mayor?
council? Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
it's hard to hear with that train. So you know that.
No, can you repeat what you just said about the condemnation committee and value of the property? Can you just go?
Mr. Mayor, I heard that.
Well, let me, I'm going to go outside and tell that darn train to do a, sorry about the interruption.
No, I want to just be recognized because I would like to, I see there's problems with this because we have not, as a council, been shown the design of this project, even though the project is mentioned in the resolution that they were wanted to have passed tonight. And the Alcorns themselves have sent me some different designs that supposedly are there that they have been discussed with, but yet we're taking a vote tonight based on one design from 2014 with the appraised value of that land based on that design. So, and then the other part of this is that there's no end date for this, just like there wasn't before, and here we are 6 years later. So I would like to see this postponed. I make a motion to postpone this for 2 weeks. And during that time, that addition is made to this resolution, setting a end date like August 31st of this year to have negotiations complete, and if not, the condemnation process start. And then also to bring or to have attachments that show the designs that they have talked about with the Alcorns that would have the associated costs for the appraisals given those different designs and the different amount of land that is used on those other designs. So my motion is to postpone for 2 weeks to have those things done.
Mr. Morrissey, can you please slowly restate the conditions of your postponement for the resolution so that I can get them recorded properly?
Oh, number A is that an end date on negotiations be 8/31/2020 with the following day, 9/1/2020 be the start of condemnation.
Can you say that again?
And then the B is that attachments be added.
Hold on a second, Mr. Morrissey. So say that first part again. You want an end date to be included in line 1 for negotiations for condemnation as August 30th, 2020?
31st, 2020.
Okay.
With condemnation proceeding on 9/1/2020.
Okay. Part 2.
And then B is that attachments be given showing the designs as given to the Alcorns with the associated appraised dollar amounts given those other design concepts for the project.
I now see why it's been 34 years, but we have a,
And then what was you had a letter C, correct? Or was that it?
No.
That's
those
it?
two, those two.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks for clarifying.
Well, thank you. But that's my motion.
so we have a motion to push back more time,
Postpone for 2 weeks, Mr. Mayor.
postpone for 2 weeks, from Mr. Morrissey. Is there a second on that amendment or the postponement? All right, there's no second. Can we vote on this,
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Jewin.
Yes.
We couldn't understand that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
No.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
And Mr. Greider?
Yes.
All right, thank you. 34 years, 6 years, we are hopefully getting closer. Number 8, please. Anyone?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Greider.
Mayor.
Is that Greider or Amos? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Greider and Mr. Amos. Mr. Amos.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication and notice of public hearing, and that is for a mowing contract for city-owned lots generally acquired through Iowa Code 657A.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open, and I have received a call about this particular item, and we have Mr. James Adams. Are you on the line? Mr. Adams? Mr. Adams? Well, it fits, Mr. Adams had questions regarding the ability of a minority contractor to be able to bid on a piece of this project. So at this time, we had a low bidder. So I think we are going to try to work with Mr. Jones, Mr. Rudy Jones, on these types of opportunities. And I have reached out to Mr. Hudding. I've reached out to Mr. Kasperi also to see if there's some types of work to make sure that we have an inclusive bidding environment. So nothing was done wrong, just the ability for having a minority contractor have a piece of this overall contract. And he voiced his opinion. All right. Mr. Adams, are you out there? All right, Mr. Amos?
All right, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments.
Second.
That motion has been made with second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution confirming approval of plan specifications, form of contract, et cetera, and authorizing to proceed.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I was wondering, have any of the budding property owners been approached or sent any kind of information about their right to submit a mow-to-own proposal?
Mr. Anderson?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning and Development Director. I think we have 220 lots now. I'm not aware of any formal requests for the MOTA own. We have had some people ask questions about it, but I do not believe that we have any requests out there that are moving ahead today.
Do we have any of those abutting property owners that are even aware of a mow-to-own program?
I believe, if we have discussions with them about the maintenance of it, we have in the past. I don't know that we've made any active, mailings or anything like that to try and contact everyone.
And finally, how much does this cost us per year, or how much has it been costing us per year?
I don't have my budget number right in front of me, but I think it was about $144,000 last couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file and instruct the city clerk to read bids and refer to the Community Planning and Development Director for review.
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk?
Our first bidder was B&B Lawn Care Incorporated of Waterloo, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount for option A was $9.74. Option B, $9.74. Our second bidder was Speedy's Lawn Care Services of Wellsburg, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount for option A was $45. Option B, $100. Our third bidder was James Adams of Waterloo, Iowa. He provided 5% security. His bid amount for option A was $17 and option B, $43. Our next bidder was Wilson Custom Tree of Cresco, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount for option A was $25, option B, $52.50. Our final bidder was Polo Green Landscaping and Lawn Care Services, LLC of Hubbard, Iowa. They provided 5% security. Their bid amount for option A was $16.98 and option B, $54.
All right, thank you. Could someone take 9? Do you mind if I do 9, 10, and 11, or does council want those split out? Someone take 9, 10, and 11, please. Yes, sir.
Split out number 9, please.
Yep, number 9, please. Could someone take number 9?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bozen.
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the development and minimum assessment agreement to Dolly James 2 LLC and Highfield LLC, originally approved on September 8, 2015, to reassign the agreement to 6Com Properties LLC, adjusting completion and minimum assessment agreement date, and include additional property within the project area, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. For this, I think there was a question or so asked last time about the significance or the impact that the developer has had, and also questions that were asked about projects done and what projects were not completed. And I think we have some information for council. Is that going to be shown right now?
Yeah, I'll share the screen and we can play it.
Okay, so hold on one second. All right, so I think where we didn't probably do justice in the presentation when we had this on the council agenda is talk about the total impact from a developer and what their investments were. But at this time, council, you have any questions?
Hey, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Bozen.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. I went through the entire PowerPoint a couple of times, and I'm impressed. I'm totally impressed with the development. You know, at the River Trail development down by the river, the 612 plexus, it's a great project. We had $945,000 to buy the land and demolish, and we gave them 100% tax abatements for 10 years. And so it takes I understand the investment. It takes an extremely long time for us to start seeing taxes on some of these. The Grand Crossing one, $800,000 to buy the hotel, $800,000 to demo it, 42% tax abatements for 20 years. I'm not a big fan right now of 75% tax abatement for 20 years on this project. The other projects, the ones out at the airport, they're more in line with what I like. They were 5-year projects. The one out on Ridgeway, that's 95% tax abatements for 15 years. I'm struggling with this. I truly am, just because of the amount of abatement on this project and the time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering what was the point of the PowerPoint?
The point of the PowerPoint.
Yeah, what was the point?
Okay. Do
we have PowerPoints on other development agreements?
Do you want me to speak?
I would like the answer to that.
Well, yes, we have had PowerPoints. We had PowerPoints for major developments. But the question was asked, and I had a conversation with Mr. Bozen, and I understood where Mr. Bozen was coming from last week. So I decided to have, because the question is made about projects that were not completed or were completed, or what a developer has done for the city of Waterloo, or where's things left off. So I don't want to make any mistake when we're talking about the fact of bringing people downtown, which we all support. When we talk about projects, when we talk about new development, new investment to the city of Waterloo, why can't we show a PowerPoint so we can talk about actually what's happened? Because that's what I was asked last week. So that is the portion. And yes, we have done PowerPoint presentations for major projects.
Well, yes, but this was more than a major project.
Was the question asked about what this developer has done? What projects were not completed? That was asked. So we put together a culmination because of the conversation from council. That's why we did it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and I do understand what you said there, but at the same time, this was a development agreement that was made years ago, and it has not been followed. And there have been no extensions on it, to my knowledge. And the only thing that I see changing here is some names, and then the amount of tax rebate is almost doubled. And that's just not okay in my book.
Okay.
Now, if there wants to be an extension of his prior contract, that's one thing, but this goes beyond that.
And if there wants to be an amendment to add some land, do that. But the tax rebate needs to stay the same. Or if there's 75%, then the years of rebate need to be lower.
Mr.
I
Mayor?
oppose this for the reasons that I just stated. The development agreement either extend what's currently there, adding that additional land, or else change it accordingly.
All right. And Noel, what was the reason for the changes with the years and numbers?
Joel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director, really kind of going back in time. The building had become vacant. Viridian Credit Union had foreclosed on it and offered it to the city for the assessed value, so we acquired it. Mr. Dahlstrom owned the lot next to it. One small lot is often difficult to be able to fit a project on, so we started to work with him since he had the abutting lot next to it on a project, entered into the development agreement. As they moved toward the design, they were looking to see if there was some more land that they could gain going toward the riverfront. If you're aware of kind of how the trail system goes through there, there's a levee opening and all that. So there was some excess land there. City staff, we had to check with all three railroads since there were some former rail lines in that general vicinity years ago to make sure that there was no rail right of way or anything we had to deal with. So that took a little bit of time in terms of getting everything moving ahead. But the real slowdown was then the state of Iowa decided to suspend what was previously the enterprise zone designation, and they changed it to the workforce housing tax credit. Basically, is a state program for residential development. The state decided to suspend that. They wanted to change their process for how they received them statewide for competitive purposes, and they decided to suspend the program for 2 years. Each year telling us that they thought they would move it ahead again. It is still suspended to date, except for small towns, I believe under 10,000 in population where the program is moving ahead, but the large cities are not able to apply for it. That is part of the financing method that Mr. Dahlstrom used for some of his other mixed-use buildings. And so obviously a portion, now a large percent of his financing is not in place for him to build these buildings. And so he requested to enlarge in the tax incentives given by the city to move the project ahead now instead of waiting at this point, we don't know if it'll ever come back for the state program to come back.
All right, Mrs. Jewin. Ms. Jewin.
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Oh, Mrs. Klein,
Mr.
I'm
Mayor.
sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have to agree with my colleagues, Mr. Morrissey and Mr. Boson. I think this is too big a bite. It really kind of worries me. That's a long time. 20 years is a long time, and that big a chunk of abatement. I'm not comfortable with this at all.
All right.
But may I add one thing?
Mm-hmm.
I had an email one today that said all of the buildings that we've been seeing go up in Waterloo are not rented.
Are not what?
They're not fully rented. Some people are finding renters for those. It's just anecdotal. I got an email about it.
So, Noel, do you want to talk about the percentages of the particular developer, though? So, are you talking about new buildings, or are you talking about refurbished buildings?
I was talking about the new development. Not fully housed.
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Jewin.
Yeah, I had my question and then I withdrew it, and maybe I'll restate it. My question was going to be, why did it go up to 75%? I am assuming that Noel's answer addresses that. It went up to 75% because of the potential elimination of the state program. Is that correct?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. Yes, we basically calculated up what the program would have offered in the tax rebatement and the reimbursement on sales tax to fill that gap in the financing with a different percentage of tax rebates.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So I had a couple of people that have contacted me about the length. The 20 years seems to be a very long time, and also about the 75%, which, you know, that explanation I can understand, but 20 years seems to be a little, I don't know, I'm not going to use the word excessive, but a long time. Do we have any other current projects that would be similar to this that give the same length of time and the same type of rebate?
No.
The art block and the Grand Crossing projects are both on 20 years. They're at the 42% amount. The ConAgra plant, all the phases are on 20-year tax rebate. Thanks as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs., who was that? The other person?
Jerome.
Mr. Amos.
Yes, I was just wondering, Noel, would you have any idea as far as the actual dollar amount that would be being paid in taxes over that 20-year period?
And what's currently being paid?
And the reason that I'm asking that question is because, yes, we are giving this developer some incentives to build here and to do his business here. And my concern is if we are not doing these incentives, do we have the potential to lose these developers and consequently receive nothing for the properties?
No can answer after, but we will lose it. And we're on the verge of it right now. Hey, Noel, you want to answer the questions about the numbers?
I'm trying to see if I can find my spreadsheet on that. I can definitely send that to you. And sorry, I apologize, doing this on the line. I can't get to my spreadsheet. Yeah. Well, you can just get it to me later, Noel, but that is a concern for me is if we don't provide these incentives, the potential to lose any dollars at all is there also. So we have to take that into consideration in my mind.
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Jewin.
Yeah, Noel, the other two projects that you referenced that are 20 years but at 42%, was the reason for a smaller percentage against that? Did they get to capitalize and use that housing program that you referenced that this one is not going to get to use? Is that the reason for the difference?
Yes, for the art block and for the Grand Crossing Phase 2, they were able to utilize the workforce housing. For the Grand Crossing Phase 1, you may remember there was some flood recovery money in there. Okay. That they were able to get from the state, as well as Brownfield, Grayfield tax credit money. So they were able to find other state mechanisms for filling that financing gap, whereas those are not options today.
They had about the same amount of public funds. It's just that some of them came from different sources in the city. So it's not like they're all of a sudden needing more financing. It's just that some of the financial sources had no longer available, correct?
Yeah, I mean, in the change in this was our goal was basically to try and have, to help them meet their financing goals by having the city help, whereas the state does not have the programs to help at this point.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So that would be the same for every city in this case. I mean, we don't stand alone. Those rollbacks or callbacks from the state affect every city that are making these kinds of development deals. And I would just hate to see us try to be everything to everybody. And I worry that we just can't afford it. I really do. We're losing money today on this, this pandemic with our income in Waterloo.
So no, when we talk about
it, having a very similar. I'm sorry.
No, so when we talk,
is actually having a very similar discussion on a project there as well, where because of the lack of the state program anymore, the city of Cedar Rapids is looking to increase the amount of local incentives.
Hey, Noah, when you talk about whether or not we can afford this project, are we giving him more than we make, or how does that work? And what's all being paid with these projects?
I mean, the nice thing about the city's, standard where we're giving out tax rebates is obviously we're giving a percentage back of what we're not receiving today. So I mean, 100% of zero is still zero. Right now, it's an empty lot. I think it pays, $4,000 a year in taxes. Even with this project going up, we're probably going to get over 20 to 25,000 per year in taxes immediately. Again, no other cost to the city. It's just they're not paying their full taxes for a period of time, but they're still paying more taxes than they're paying today. Plus the investment in the city, bringing more people here with residential units. We'll make some money on the fees for the permits. So there's a lot of good things that happen as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, is this in a TIF district?
Yes, it is. It is in the downtown TIF district.
So that $4,000 is being paid, and any increment above that is going to go into the downtown TIF?
That is correct.
So that 25% beyond the 4,000 will go into the downtown TIF?
Yes.
Okay, and approximately how much money would the city, in fact, would this developer be making with 75% tax rebate over a course of 20 years? And how long would it take the city to recover that amount of what could have been taxes in the city above the 42% that he currently has been on?
So if I'm understanding your question is how much is he getting back in the tax rebates over a 20-year period?
Yes, over and above the 42% that was the original agreement.
I mean, I'd have to get you a spreadsheet to show all those numbers later. I would estimate that at about 600,000.
Well, all developers that want to work in Waterloo were welcome and always are welcome. But when something like this goes on, it's hard to be in favor of something that has been in existence for as many years as this has been, and there's been nothing happening on it, especially when all the other developments that you show this developer putting on over the years in Waterloo are there, and the city has worked with. We've been a partner with this developer as we have been with other developers. This move from 42 to 75% just doesn't meet the test.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Klein.
I'm really worried about the precedent this is going to set. I really am.
Yeah, me too. For the opposite reasons, though. Right now, we're earning $4,000 on this lot. And if this project does not go through, we have nothing. There has been a goal by council to move people downtown. This was one of those sites that was left for rot, and we were able to help get it acquired and come up with a developer who's willing to invest in this project. But right now, it's nothing. And if you take a look at all new development in downtown, because all of us brag about the condition of our downtown, and we brag about the new developments and the ability to take something that was negative and turn it into something good. But I think Hawkeye Community College built a brand new site. DuPaco did, but other than that, I don't know how many developers are building from the ground up downtown. We've had tremendous support with regards of redevelopment and refurbishing buildings, but I won't say that there's a line of people right now calling to build brand new buildings in our downtown area, and also to help move people to downtown. So part of the vibrancy we've seen comes for us having to move forward on projects like this to have people move to our downtown area. So yeah, I'm also worried about the precedents it may set for the opposite reasons as well. But it's ultimately council's decision. Are there any more comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes, a couple other things. Has this land been turned over to the developer yet?
No.
And has there been any money involved with this that is actually moved at all?
Any money from the
The
city?
land was deeded, I'm sorry.
Is that any money
The
from the
land was-
city, Mr. Morrissey, or you mean by the developer?
Well, I think Noel started to answer my question.
I was going to say the land was deeded to him back at the original time frame of back in 2015. Obviously, the developer has spent, I don't know how much I could find out, but obviously they spent money on engineering and architectural designs for the building to be ready for construction. So there's a lot of costs associated with that. As you can see through some of our design contracts for the convention center and things like that, it costs money to get these people to design it. In terms of other costs, obviously the city bought the land originally from Viridian, and then we did demolish the building. But other than that, from after when it was deeded over, it would be all developer costs for design.
So, Noel and Mr. Mayor, I go back to why has this never been brought to the council for an extension?
This is Noel Anderson. So back in 2015 is, I think, when we approved the original development agreements, which probably gave until 2016. At that point, again, when we were looking at trying to figure out if we could give them additional land, working with the railroads took a little bit of time. Obviously, we didn't want to bring a development agreement back to you to extend the timeline and then have to change it later to add the land. So we were trying to finalize that. While that was happening, then the state suspended the workforce housing program for the last couple of years. And so that's why we didn't want to bring something back to you to amend just the timeline when factors were going to change out there, and we didn't know exactly which factors had to change for the uncertainty of the state and originally with the railroad.
Well, but this was supposed to be up and that by 2017, wasn't it, Noel?
That is correct.
That was 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago, and that's when the state suspended the program. Listening to the state, I'm not trying to badmouth the state. I think they had the intentions of bringing the program back shortly. They decided to reevaluate it further and further, and it's not back in place for large cities yet. So we were trying to see an end to that, to those changes or those impacts of what that was going to have, so we could bring the council back with one more final amendment to get this project off the ground.
But again, Mr. Mayor, what Noel has just said, the developer has gone ahead and done stuff deep and, if I heard Noel, like transfer. So that was all under the old agreement. But we've got actions that have been taken under an old agreement, but yet we're making a new agreement with new rebates. That just doesn't make sense.
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Jewin?
Yeah, I understand everyone's concern with this. I had the same concerns initially. What I was not aware of is that Mr. Dahlstrom, when he was putting together his financial feasibility for this project, he was counting on the housing project from the state. When that didn't happen, then obviously it wasn't going to be financially feasible for him to do this project in the same manner. That's not his fault. He did not change his financial needs for this project. It's just that the state reneged on an agreement or on a proposed program that he withdrew. Again, that's not Mr. Dalton's fault. So I understand that he's still looking for the same amount of public funding. It's just going to be different sources. So our decision is, do we want to be that source that makes up for the withdrawal of the street program? Are the benefits of that project worth it to us? And I guess I am of the mind that Mr. Dahlstrom has done so much for downtown that I trust him, and that the benefits to this, not only of having more housing for people to move downtown, but also to get something more than what we're getting for that piece of land right now, that's certainly an improvement over what we have right now. So I will be supporting this program.
And to attract a younger workforce as well to our downtown areas. But any other comments, council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bozen.
thank you. I appreciate it. When did they in that housing program, tax credit program?
When did the state suspend it? I think it was 2.5 years ago.
Which would be when? Because he was supposed to start this project in June of 2016 and complete it in July of 17, according to the original development agreement. So that would mean that prior to the 2016 of June, that housing tax credit had to be off the table. So we're talking 3.5 years ago.
The original delay was because of the trying to gain more land there. Once they got into really looking at the design of what they wanted to put on that site and be able to have a big enough footprint for the underground, the parking basically on the first floor, and then the residential units above. When they started to look at that is when we started to look at additional land moving toward the levee system. So that was the first delay in that we were moving ahead to try and get him more land and dealing with the railroads to make sure we could do that. Once we had that figured out, and if any of you have ever dealt with the railroad, you'll know that it's not a very fast process all the time. So once we got that figured out, unfortunately is when the state decided to suspend the housing program.
Okay, I'm like I say, as I said before, I am adamant against these long-term, really, really high tax rebates. But I'm on the fence. I truly am, because we need to get something moving in there. But what's our recourse? Because according to this new development agreement, they're supposed to start in June of this year and be done in October of next year. Correct?
I believe that is correct.
So if it doesn't start in June of this year and end in October of next year, we're back to square one again.
Correct. And obviously, we'll be watching pretty closely to see if they start in June now that we'd have everything, if it was approved and we had everything moving ahead. The one concern I would have right now is with the current pandemic of slowing anything down from construction materials being provided or something from the coast of, in terms of steel or wood or anything, but that's something we won't know, for another month or so.
So how do we rewrite this development agreement if that's the case?
I mean, we could definitely change the start date. Well, and actually there should be some wording in there. So they're supposed to start in June. Obviously, there's some wording in there, before it always kind of looked at for like a flood or for a tornado or something, if there's some kind of a worldwide.
It said fire, flood, tornado, things like that.
We agreed that it lasts for 60 days, then we could extend the start date by 60 days if we agreed to that. So there's some wording to kind of take emergency situations in case.
Okay. Well, like I say, I'm moving closer to getting something on that lot. I truly am. I want to have further conversations in the future on TIF, CLR, and CHIPA. I truly do. And whether we meet in small groups, whether we have a work session, but let's get together and let's work so that we can all be in agreement when these things come to the council. At least the majority of us can be in agreement.
Thank you. I guess, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
No.
Mrs. Klein,
No.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
and Mr. Bozen.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. 10, 11, and 12, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr., who was that?
Mr. Bozen.
Mr. Bozen.
Number 10, I'd like to adopt a resolution approving a variance to the requirements of the subdivision ordinance in section 11-3-3D, application procedure and requirements as it relates to the approval of final plat of Northeast Industrial Park Plat number 5. Number 11 is a resolution approving amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with INS Group, Inc. in the amount of $50,000 for professional design fees and related services for the 5 Sullivan Brothers Convention Center Penthouse Chiller Project, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said documents. And number 12, a resolution approving the request of MMS Consultants, Inc. on behalf of the city of Waterloo to approve the final plat of Northeast Industrial Park Plat number 5, a 2-lot industrial subdivision located south of 2280 Northeast Drive.
All right, thank you.
Second.
That motion's been made with the second. Council questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos.
Yes.
All right, thank you. 13, 14, and 15.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs.
number
Klein.
Klein. Number 15 is a motion to adopt a resolution concurring with the city planner that the proposed change to the approved site plan within an M2P plan district for the construction of 162,855 square foot industrial building, 6,283 square foot office area, and 10,194 square vehicle maintenance shop, located east of 1994 Newell Street, is minor and should be approved as a minor site plan amendment. And number 14 is a resolution approving a request by the city of Waterloo to dedicate a 15-foot wide permanent sanitary sewer easement located south of 15 Martin Road. And number 15 is a resolution approving construction plan for grading, paving, and utility construction serving the Lincolnshire Road addition, as submitted by Clap Saddle Garber Associates, Inc. of Cedar Falls, Iowa, and sewage treatment agreement, DNR Form 29, November 2000, with the Department of Natural Resources and the final acceptance of construction plans, subject to review by the Department of Natural Resources, and said document.
Second.
All right, that motion has been made with the second. Council or anyone, you have any questions? Wait, I think Kevin Fitterow from Skogman is here to talk about item number 15. So Kevin, are you out there?
Mr. Mayor, this is Noel. Kevin had to drop off, but he gave me some information if there's any questions.
I just saw it's almost 8 o'clock. Any questions about this, council? Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey.
Yes.
All right, thank you. 16, 17, and 18, someone please.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Number 16 is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with HR Green, Inc. of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, an amount not to exceed $544,971.75 in conjunction with the fiscal year 2021 Shawless Road reconstruction to Hess Road to Highway 218, contract number 1020, and authorizing the mayor to execute said document. 17 is a resolution approving acceptance of improvements of Bamboo Ridge area sanitary sewer relocation and improvements submitted by Wayne Clausen Engineering and Surveying, Inc. and performed by Peterson Contractors, Inc. of Rhinebeck, Iowa. And 18 is a resolution approving an access agreement with HNA-LC to gain right of entry to conduct wetland survey on property located between Independence Avenue and the Yardway site, and authorizing the mayor to execute said document.
Second.
That motion has been made with the second. Are there any questions about these three items? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
Mr. Morrissey?
yes, I had a question. Okay, in number 16,
I have a question.
we had postponed this till today, and I want to know where that $544,971.75 comes from.
Jamie or Noel? Are you guys, Jamie, you having trouble again?
Nope, Jamie Knudsen, city engineer. Right now, we are planning, in our discussions earlier this afternoon with Mr. Anderson, we were looking at using approximately $130,000 out of the current road use tax budget in my department, and then the approximately other $400,000 will come from the Shawless bond issue here shortly.
What do you mean?
What do you mean by shortly?
It's my understanding that there's going to be a bond issue for the Shawless Road as match for the rise. This would be part of that bond issuance.
Has that been approved yet?
No.
This is Noel Anderson. That would be approved very soon, we believe, we're moving ahead with the development agreement for the theme park project out there, and would include some of the improvements for Shawless as part of that project.
So that's a what if?
Pardon?
So that's a what if?
That's a what if?
Yeah, that's not been done yet.
I guess it's the road improvements are necessary for the theme park project, so if we denied the theme park, I guess we would deny the Shawless Road Fund, yes.
But that 400,000 out of the Shawless bond issue, that has not been done yet?
It is not. It would be part of the bond issue to be sold in the near future.
So why are we doing this before we do that?
Jamie Knudsen, city engineer, I can answer that for you, Mr. Morrissey. We have a very tight time frame on this. The theme park is expected to be open in the spring of 22. We need to have the road completed, obviously, prior to that. And right now, we're on a very tight time frame in order to get that completed.
And this bond issue will supposedly pass when?
No.
We would hope in the June timeframe.
Mr. Mayor, when Mr. Morrissey's done.
I'm done.
Mr. Bozen?
Just a quick question, are these geo bonds, or these TIP bonds, or what are we looking at for the bonds that Jamie was talking about?
They would, I don't know if Michelle wanted to answer that, or they would be bonds that would be repaid with TIF and the other funding sources in the development agreement for the Birch project, which would include also hotel motel.
Is Michelle on the line? I don't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, I'm here. we need to look at that. I'm sorry, they sent me a whole bunch of funding stuff right at 5 for a bunch of projects, and I need to have some time to go through it all. I can't answer it right now.
Okay, so if you can't answer it right now, you would have an answer available prior to this bonding coming up in the future?
Well, yes, but the problem is we're gonna approve spending the money now.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, they'll already have started the engineering project and we'll be on the hook for 544K. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
was this originally going to be included in the bond issue? Or was it just stuck in there at the last minute because we didn't know how to fund it?
Noel?
This is Noel. Yeah, we have planned to make Shawless Road improvements as a part of the overall package for the theme park from the beginning. And just working to finalize some of those numbers. And obviously, the design work, like Jamie said, for the timeline, we're trying to get that started before we get to the bond issue.
But the last time you spoke to us about this, you said you had no idea where this funding was coming from. So it kind of was.
That was when we had not identified I believe the 135,000 out of Jamie's road use tax portion that would pay for the immediate bills before the bonding.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Foyce,
Yes.
Mr. Greider,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin.
Yes.
There's a lot of background noise.
Somebody's eating dinner.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry. Mr. Bozen,
Yes.
Mr. Enos.
Yes. Gave yourself away, Ray.
I know.
Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mrs. Klein.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. 19, 20, and 21. I'll take them. Oh, Mrs. Jewin.
Yes. Number 19, approve a resolution approving an agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation through the Competitive Highway Bridge Program, CHBP. $12.5 million to the city, paying the balance in conjunction with the replacement of the 11th Street and Park Avenue bridges, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document. Number 20, resolution authorizing a partnership with the Iowa Initiative for Sustainable Communities, a program of the University of Iowa in the amount of $50,000. And finally, approve a resolution approving a proposal with Advanced Environmental Testing and Abatement, Inc. of Waterloo, Iowa, in conjunction with the Waste Management Services Biosolids Modification Project, contract number 994, and authorize the mayor to execute said document.
Second.
A motion has been made with the second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor, so my only question is on 20. I'm in support of it, but my question is what if there's not an academic year for 20 to 2021 as we understand it in the physical setting
That is a good,
due to ongoing health concerns in the world?
good question. Wendy, are you on the line?
I'm on.
So some of these, they actually have to be here, don't they, Wendy?
In many cases, they will have to be here at some point. If there's no academic year, there's no program. So
Okay.
So then are we just
if there's no program, then we're not on the line for any money.
okay.
Or the partners. All right. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
quick question on, and maybe Michelle can answer it on the funding source for this 50,000.
Or, okay. Michelle or
For
Wendy?
for number 20.
Yeah, for 20. Wendy, I think Wendy has some thoughts about that.
Okay, Wendy?
Well, until we actually have identified the actual projects, we can't say where the funding would come from. Some of these projects we identify may be in partnership with the county. They could be in partnership with the Cedar Valley Trails. So until this is just basically for our council to say, yes, we want to work with you, University of Iowa, and we will now take the next step to identify projects and funders. So we may apply for grants. Other organizations may apply for grants. It's going to have to be piecemealed out project by project. Some of these projects might already be in our budget for next year, and it's just that we're going to use a different consultant using the University of Iowa.
So there's a good possibility that this could be spread out among a bunch of different agencies or governmental groups, and so we wouldn't be on the hook. Chances are we're not going to be on the hook for the entire 50,000.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Jewin?
Yeah, and Wendy, you might have partially answered my question. My question is, where do we think we're going to use these students? And it sounds like that hasn't determined. But I'm wondering, the mayor has talked about a citywide planning process, which I would totally support to get the input of our citizens. Is this something that the students could assist us with? And we already put the money for that into the budget?
Correct. So that definitely is a project that they could help us with. So like I said, some of the projects might already be in our budget or in our department's planning for the upcoming year. So it would just be a matter of using, they would be our consultants on these projects. So the next step would be to do to pull some stakeholders from the city and ideas from the council and our department heads, put them together, and then the University of Iowa will really work with us to narrow that to the projects that are going to be most beneficial for the city and the projects that are most in their wheelhouse.
And I appreciate that, but I've worked with a lot of student groups such as this, and sometimes we wind up with make work, and that's not what any of us want. So I am hoping, let me finish. I am really hopeful that we can use it for a project that we've already identified is something that we need, such as that community input session planning process, or something else that we've already identified as a need, not just something we're trying to make up in order to address this program.
And as they stated in their presentation during the work session, these are graduate level students, most of them in this will be their capstone project. So we're not looking at, sophomores coming in, freshmen coming in and getting their feet wet. These are individuals that are already putting together a resume and portfolio so they can go out into the workforce. Also, it's not just the students, it's the faculty of the graduate schools there at the University of Iowa. So they're bringing their expertise and knowledge to the projects as well. I've provided some comments, some testimonials from other communities. You can review those as well.
Thank you.
One more question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Bozen.
And that was on 19, and this is a question probably for Jamie, and Lord knows we need to get those bridges redone. And I was curious if the 12.5 million is going to be really close to what we're going to spend, because it appears we're on the hook for anything above that. Maybe Jamie could answer that.
Jamie Knudsen, city engineer. Currently, right now, the city is going to have to pay for the design and the inspection for the consultant to do the work. And then, of course, any overages in the construction above and beyond that 12.5 million, the city will need to pay for that as well. We are working to make sure that we stay within that 12.5 million. But right now, the preliminary design is underway, and that should be finished here in May. And then we will be moving on to the actual final design for the bridges and everything. Those things have to be let by September of 2021. And it's a DOT letting, which takes about 6 months, so we don't have a lot of time to get these things designed and out to bid.
Jamie,
Thank you.
it'll come back to council at what point?
Well, certainly we have or will intend to have, we've already had one public information meeting and a design charrette for 2 days. That was attended by some folks from the downtown. And as we move into more of the design details, we will be holding more of those with the interested parties along both corridors. Council is free to come and participate in any and all of those as well. At some point, we will come back to council with a design update and let you see where things are at this point. We haven't decided anything yet as far as the next steps or when to bring that back as far as the timeline. We'll look at that when we move into the design phase here in May.
Okay. All right. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Boson?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes on 19 and 21 and no on 20.
And Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
All right, and I just, once again, just want to echo, if you take a look at some of the items on there, this is another tremendous, 19 is absolutely tremendous. A couple years ago, we were thinking about how we would be able to pay for one bridge, not let alone two. So, Jamie, Michelle, and the staff, excellent job. 22 and 23.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Number 22 is a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between Blackhawk County Pheasants Forever chapter for a pollinator planting project on the northeast corner of Martin Road and Highway 63 and authorizing the mayor to execute said document. Number 23 is a resolution urging the governor of Iowa to issue a shelter-in-place order in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
That motion's been made. All right, comments, anyone?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Greider.
So I sponsored number 23. I would like to change the language, just make sure we're all messaging on the same, from shelter in place to safety at home. We have witnessed over the last week a dramatic increase in cases across the state, as well as, unfortunately, the number of deaths related to COVID-19. And it's absolutely imperative that we have language across the state that emphasizes how serious this crisis is, and that we all understand what needs to happen. Right now, Iowa is one of 5 states that does not have some sort of stay-at-home order, making us an outlier, certainly across the country. And I think it leads to confusion. My family and I have been hunkered down, but I know that I have kids who've been up at West High playing on the football field, or people are confused that when we limit gatherings of 10 people, about whether that means that people can come over for drinks on the patio or a bonfire so long as they stay 6 feet apart. And what we're hearing from the medical experts is that no, you have to stay at home. That is the safest place unless you absolutely have to go to work because you work at an essential workplace, or you have to go get medicine, or you have to go get groceries. Anything else is putting a lot of us at danger. And I don't want to be the harbinger of bad times, but the only way that we get back to a new normal, that looks like an old normal, is if we flatten the curve, and that requires us to stay at home. And that is why I have written this resolution, because we need guidance across the state on this, not just from one or two elected officials, or a lot of elected officials, but we need it coming from the highest office in the state of Iowa.
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Jewin.
Yeah, hearing from a lot of people saying, well, why do we need this? Because the governor has already authorized guidelines that embrace a lot of the shelter at home or safety at home or shelter in place. And that's true. A lot of what has already been given out as guidelines are very close to the other shelter in place orders. The difference to me, and the reason I will support this, is because I think having a statewide order carries a degree of severity, of importance, of mandate that right now, like Mrs. Reiner said, a lot of people aren't taking this entirely seriously. And they are going out and they are still gathering and they are still going to non-essential places. And I think we have to put the strength and the power and the authorization of the state behind this to say that we have got to get serious about this. And it is a critical issue. So that's the reason I will be supporting this.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor.
I heard a lady's voice. Was that you, Miss Jewin?
It was me, Mrs.
Mrs.
Klein.
Klein.
Ms. Morris can go first, I don't mind.
Come on, let's. It's getting late, so if you want to please go, that'll be great.
Okay, just a couple of things. I very much come to admire our governor, Kim Reynolds, for the job she's doing and the very careful manner in which she is running the state in this issue. It is not heavy-handed one way or the other. It is watching the facts as they come in real time to her, and it's making the best choice all the way along. We actually have quite so many restrictions where we can go and what we can do, and I don't think any further recommendation from us is necessary. But just to give you one example, I went to a paint store yesterday, and it was the best thing. I called in, ordered the paint, they filled my order, they put it out in the parking lot. We picked it up with gloves, put it in the car, and brought it home, wiped it off, and painted. That little store owner was thrilled to have the business, because when he doesn't earn money coming in the door, there's just no money for him. And I believe that our governor is responding to small business owners like that, keeping us safe. I want to continue to go order my food out and pick it up in a safe manner. I want to do those things. I think that's a real calibration in how to keep us safe and keep small businesses going. So I can't support it.
All right, Mr. Morrissey.
So, Mr. Greider, your resolution does not stop, or if it was taken up by the governor, would not stop the council person who just spoke from being able to do what he did.
No.
Okay. So, in your resolution and your explanation, you said that you wanted to change the language from shelter in place to safety at home.
Yes.
I think we need to make an amendment to change the language in your resolution that wherever shelter in place is stated, you will now have safety at home, correct?
That's correct.
Safe at home.
Okay, so I'd like to make that motion.
Hey, Mr. Morrissey,
And I will second.
Mr. Greider, is it possible to use safe at home?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morrissey?
That's fine, as long as it's his resolution.
Right.
Motion and a second on the amendment.
Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Jewin,
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
No.
Mr. Foyce?
Ms. Klein, you are a yes on 22, right, with the pheasants, and a no on 23?
This is on the
Oops,
amendment.
Oops, I'm sorry. You are correct, Mrs. Klein.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
And Mr. Greider?
Yes.
All right, 22 and 23, Madam Clerk. And the pheasants.
And the pheasants. Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes on 22, no on 23.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, can someone take 24, please?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079, amended City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4, approving the rezone of certain property located north of 5225 Desert Road.
Second.
And that's on the request by BGOG Waterloo, Iowa, 062619 LLC, to rezone 3.082 acre property north of 5225 Desert Road from R4 multiple residence to CP Plan Commercial District to constructing new Dollar Generals.
All right, so that motion
Second.
that motion is made with the second. We do have people online to, method. So John and Rita Humple, they sent in email comments, and this is as read: to the City Council, this is John and Rita Humple. We live at 5222 Desert Road, which is across the street from the proposed Dollar General store on Desert Road. We appreciate the council's comments and concerns of road traffic during the last council meeting. They were exactly what we feel. Most people don't realize the heavy traffic on this road. During the day, truck traffic outnumbers passenger vehicles. It includes dump trucks to go to and from the rock quarries such as PCI, Aspro trucks, trucks of all sizes, going to and from the landfill, semi-tractor trailers, number of livestock trucks. From the last meeting, it sounded like there were no plans for turning lanes. If that's the case, we are concerned that the accidents will occur. Traffic is generally faster north downhill on the road and starts slowing right where the curve starts. We see this daily right in front of our house. Traffic is generally slower going south, but gaining speed as it passes by us. This also depends on the traffic lights at Charlotte and Desert. Most truck traffic from the north comes from Highway 218 or Texas Street. If turning lanes aren't possible, what about a road embargo to reroute truck traffic? We do have a lot of turn around traffic in our driveway. It's worse when the water park is open. People miss their turn at the traffic lights. We would imagine Dollar General would become a new turnaround. To reiterate, large trucks need extra distance to stop when vehicles in front of them are turning. When the rest of the Desert Road is reconstructed this spring, vehicles would only be going faster with an improved road. Thank you for your time. There's one more email. This is from Mary Kaufman. The neighborhood of Westside, Southdale, and two other trailer parks have resided off Desert Road for over 40 years. These additions border Desert and Orange Roads. Within the last 10 years, a similar housing addition was added off of Desert as well. The traffic on Desert has increased tenfold with the number of dump trucks, gravel trucks, garbage trucks, and semis going back and forth on Desert. The speed and frequency at which those trucks travel north and south on Desert is already an issue, and this is without considering the considerable residential traffic that occurs on a daily basis. In the past, the farmland that would be used for the Dollar General was rated in the high 90s percentile of agricultural purposes. We believe that the farmland should be exempt for any and all business development. It wasn't bad enough that you approved and helped pay for an amusement park in an already busy residential intersection. You are now considering taking good farmland for a Dollar General at the location detrimental for all residents living on Dysart Road. Between the amusement park, water park, casino, and now a Dollar General, you are decreasing the value of the neighborhoods of Dysart Road. Therefore, we are requesting you turn down Dollar General's appeal to build on Highway 218 with an entrance off Dysart Road. Those are the two comments. And is John Russo on the phone?
Good evening, everyone. This is Joe Russo with Farnsworth Group out of Pontiac, Illinois, representing Overland Group, the proposed developer for the store. I'll just be brief. I am here. I am available for questions from council if they have it, but we have submitted some additional information and actually some clarifications from the city engineer to Noel Anderson in regards to the questions that were raised at the March 23rd meeting. That the information we've submitted addresses those items. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those on. But if not, I'll just be here in the background, hopefully waiting on a vote.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
and I was the one that brought up delaying it until we dealt with the site distances and that. And Mr. Anderson did send me a copy of a letter that he got from the Farnsworth group this weekend on site distances. And I don't really know if you can see this or not, but it does show the entrance to the Dollar General, and it shows that curve that I was concerned with. Now, it also shows an area to maintain that site distance that needs to be cleared of brush and trees. Now, my question on that is because I drive it every day, and I know that how obscure that site is through there. Who would be responsible for removing those trees, and if they belong to the property owner on that land right there? How do we make this happen so that we have adequate site distance to maintain that stopping? Because it came right out of the Farnsworth letter that in order to maintain on the southbound motorists the stopping distance, they would have to create a cleared area for site distance, which would remove a bunch of trees and brush that are along the road through there.
Mayor, this is Joe Russo, just responding to Mr. Bozen's question. I just want to put it out there that the Dollar General is completely willing to take care of that tree and brush removal for any items in the right of way or on private property. You know, if an easement could be secured for that portion, we feel that the clearing that would be needed would stay within the Dysart Road right of way, but that could be looked at in more detail if needed.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, last time that we talked about this, I had asked city attorney a question regarding if there would be any legal consequence if we turned this down. And the answer from that is contained within the zoning ordinance. And it is that no, that we either approve or disapprove of this. Furthermore, I mean, from the discussions through the emails, you have property owners out there that do not much care for this idea and want us to reject that. I again return to the fact that I believe in the future, maybe 5 years from now, 5 to 10 years from now, that area out there, if this was allowed to go through, would be nothing but a traffic quagmire. And I just want to quote Chapter 16 of the CP Plan Commercial District zoning ordinance. It says the compatibility design commercial uses allowed in C1 or C2 districts may be specifically and selectively authorized by the City Council upon a recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
except that no commercial uses will be allowed which appear detrimental to the intent of this district or the essential character of the neighborhood. And I believe that if we approve this, we are violating that idea of this should not be detrimental to the intent of that district or the character of that neighborhood. So I will be voting against this request.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. I have a question. Did anyone else have a question right now?
I have one more when other council members are done.
Any other? Mr. Bozen, you mind if I'm not a council member, can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Russo, one of the concerns, which I don't know, it's not addressed in here, but this area will probably end up being one of the best looking areas citywide, with the amusement park, with all the happenings and things that are taking place there. Are you able to utilize different facades and landscaping for this particular project? We received something from one of our local developers, or I won't even call them that, but serves on several different boards. And there was a picture of a Dollar General on net lease advisor, and the facade was incredible. The landscaping was incredible, and really would be one, if council approved, that really fits in what we have for the overall vision for that area. But do you have any flexibility or based upon, do you have any flexibility with the look?
This is Joe Russo with Farnsworth Group again. And Mr. Mayor, we absolutely do. And we've had some correspondence already with the city on having to kind of upgrade our architectural appearance of the building and some landscaping in accordance with that Route 218 corridor. But if there was something, above and beyond that, that the city would like us to look at, we definitely would. We're never against, doing building modifications or landscaping modifications to meet, a surrounding area for the store.
Okay. Mr. Bozen.
Well, since you brought that up, I would be totally in favor of a higher end looking facade. But what I was actually bringing up was, and I had already addressed this with Sandy Grieco about doing a traffic study, and we won't be able to do that until after this construction season. But I truly believe for the safety of the people that drive that road every day, that road really needs to be 35 miles an hour. And hopefully a traffic study will justify that, and that would really ease up a lot of my safety concerns with the sight distance, stopping distance, and turning on that curve. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from council? And depending upon how this vote goes, I'm assuming that if it does pass, it will probably only be one reading tonight. Are we able, can I send some, if it does, for the first reading, can I send something over to Noel, and Noel send that to you to take a look at what I discussed? Mr. Russo?
Yeah, that would be completely fine. Sorry about that, Mayor. We're just, the main thing we're looking for is to, see this moving forward. So, assuming a favorable vote tonight, we'd be fine, with some follow-up correspondence to help dial in these last few items. Cause I know we've still, we've got meetings coming up later this month as well on this. So, you know, we're as long as we're seeing things moving forward, that's the main thing we're looking for.
Okay. All
Mr.
right.
Mayor,
Mrs. Jewin.
I just would add that I am much more likely to support this if I know that there's a goodwill effort to do some improved, enhanced design, because that is going to be a very public and area of our town, and I certainly would like it to look even nicer. So I would support this if we have their assurances they'll at least look at an enhanced design to the building and landscape.
Well, we're talking about, you're right, we're talking about tonight, potentially, if it passes, just a first reading, and council can decide whether or not to suspend the rules, but it'll be the first reading, and then we can have some more dialogue in between.
Right.
But it's in council's hand now. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
No.
Mrs. Klein? Mrs. Klein?
Did we lose her?
Mrs. Klein.
We lost Mrs. Klein.
Looks like she just dropped off.
We'll come back. Can you try and call her quick on your cell?
Yep. Let me see.
Battery die, maybe?
I'll get the rest of your votes, and then we'll circle back to Mrs. Klein. Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
No.
Mrs.
Hold on
Jewin?
1 second.
Yes.
And Mr. Bozen?
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, you're back?
oh, there she is. Mrs. Klein, how do you vote on the first reading of
I
the
vote-
ordinance?
On number 24 we're on, I
Yeah.
vote no.
Yep, okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
What was it?
It was 3 noes.
Okay, 4-3. All right, Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
That motion's been made with the second. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Morrissey?
No.
Mrs. Klein?
No.
Mr. Foyce?
No.
Mr. Greider?
No.
Mrs. Jewin?
No.
Mr. Bozen?
No.
And Mr. Amos?
No.
We got a 7-0 vote. Number 25, before this train gets here.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bozen.
I'd like to make a motion approving change order number 1 to Hankel Construction Company of Mason City, Iowa for a net increase of $44,013 in conjunction with the 5 Sullivan Brothers Kitchen Improvement Project, and authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
The motion has been made with the second. Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Klein? Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Foyce?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Greider?
Yes.
Mrs. Jewin?
Yes.
Mr. Bozen?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
All right, thank you, council.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion been made with second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, everybody.
All right, great
Stay
job,
safe.
council. Bye.